I'm WG, and with Season 0 or the preseason coming to an end, with the new season releasing in just 2 days time on the 12th, let's check out the standouts of Season 0. That doesn't mean that this is anything final, nor that there can't be any crazy things discovered later down the line or have already been discovered, but we're mainly going to have a look at which characters were people talking about the most and what were they doing with these characters to get the most out of them. So let's actually start it off with Beryl. We're going to start it off with a 4-star that every single one of you has, either due to the Haru raid up or obviously 3 through the starter event. So Beryl herself has crystallized herself in 2 different ways, right? If we ignore Mika, then some could label her the strongest free-to-play unit, but yeah, let's have a look at the reasons why. So there's technically 2 approaches to Beryl, or maybe even 3. Approach number 1 is a Queen of Utility, and that is due to the Guilty Pleasure card itself costing you absolutely nothing, and on top of what you see here, which we'll go into a bit more detail, you also always have the ability to get this with Godly Epiphanies for even more value. So these are just the variants of a card that at standard is already pretty damn good, drawing you 3 for the cost of nothing. And then you even have cards like this, which draw you 3 and then 2 the turn after, or even the ability to just use this card twice during a fight before it gets exhausted, or even this funny retain card in here, which might even see a bit more use in the future. Or I guess even the, cost reduction Guilty Pleasure. So Guilty Pleasure just as a overall, utility card is just incredibly good. And then to, you could say, establish her as that kind of sub-DPS role, you have this retainability right here, which reduces the cost of the charge shot, or even right here, the retain change cost to 0, meaning not only will you be able to basically play all your cards for free, you will also be able to get a massive amount of card draw, as well as then these upgrades, and also let's not forget about Heavy Weapon Specialist, the ability to create either a opening found at 0 or a charge shot already at 1 cost. So that is your utility slash sub DPS slash low AP focused Beryl. Then we have something that has become incredibly popular due to the, you could say, clip and oohs and ahs potential, and that is the opening found Epiphany. So the opening found Epiphany itself says that whenever a card of Beryl is retained, meaning you end your turn with these cards in hand, a 150% extra attack is triggered to a random enemies. Now there is 2 ways to turn this absolutely crazy, or not even 2 ways, there's 2 things you need to do. Number 1, the more copies of this you get, obviously the more times it triggers, and number 2, the more retain cards of hers you have in hand, the more you can get out of this. So for example, what is quite popular is trying to find yourself a opening found before beating the first boss, then cloning said opening found, encountering a cloning event, getting copy 3, and then hopefully ending it on a second boss kill, giving you that 4th copy. And then you have your opening founds. So then your simple goal is to just play out these opening founds, where, for example, right here, Rosaria can help you due to having the ability to deck search for enhanced cards, or even someone like a Cassius who can then deck search and help you find these upgrade cards to get this rolling. So then the way this looks is you want to have played out all your opening founds, and then, for example, you can either draw into charged shots or even just create opening founds or charged shots in your hand through the Heavy Weapon Specialist, or even the Hidden Bullet Unique, not Hidden Bullet Unique, the Hidden Bullet Neutral card that also have the retain tag. So what then, for example, can happen is, just imagine this scenario. You have 4 openings found that you have played, you have 5 Beryl cards in hand, and that is already 20 shots. All of these shots are going to be dealing that extra sweet extra damage, and you can also further increase this extra damage by by getting extra damage as a substat on her gear pieces, which is something you can be looking for. Let's see if we have a at least half decent example here. Obviously right here, like an extra damage subset that can further increase that damage. And then the last one would kind of be you, for example, running a barrel with the retain +1 hit, or even, this one is really nice, the retain +2 hit epiphany. See, the important part is it says +2 for 1 turn. Now, usually this means this taps out at 3 hits, but what if you were to say, for example, have this epiphany right here, which activates the retain effect of all cards in hand, already giving you, instead of a 3-hitter, if you have this card pulled last turn, already a 5-hitter, and then what if, for example, you also combine that with an Orlea, which has a epiphany that allows you to select one card in hand. The important part here is select. This is the only Orlea epiphany that works on any retain card in hand, and triggers that retain effect twice. So that is all of a sudden you're going from a base 1-hitter to a 3-hitter through the standard turn retain, into a 5-hitter through snack time, into a 9-hitter through a glow acceleration, and then if you even want to take it that one step further, you trigger the Will of Light to already have an 11-hitter. So all of a sudden you have an 11-hitter at, let's go back to barrel, where is she? At a beautiful 126% base damage that can be increased through unique potential, through morale boosts and all that stuff. So this one is kind of like that third way you can play your barrel and have fun. Obviously any of these other retain synergies like the damage synergy and the like to some degree get buffed there as well. You then also have right here the for example plus 100% combo, or here the 2-hitter with the extra damage. And then let's not forget the fact that you also have unlimited firepower, which adds an additive 80% damage to the next attack card used, which could also, or even this one, which should be a multiplicative 30% increase, and any of these cards can then be used before this beautiful 11-hit madness is going to get shot at your enemies. So that is Beryl. Next up on our list, the next character we need to discuss is going to be Mei Lin. So Mei Lin might just be the biggest clip farmer in the game right now, and that is just due to the sheer volume of hits she can put out in a incredibly short amount of time. So let's have a look at how people are making this combo work and why in general Mei Lin is so favored. So first off, Mei Lin, even at base with just this Outbreak of War card, already has the ability to inflict passion weakness with whatever, so long as she uses an attack card, meaning Mei Lin as a single target unit is effective on every single planet, due to her then having the ability to be effective against anything by applying said passion weakness. So overall, straight up, just like that, you already have that weakness, and then you also have this Ember mechanic right here. Let's see if we can have a look at it. The Ember mechanic, which also allows you to get an extra damage multiplier, or I think additive multiplier. It's not quite so certain, but overall what you need to know is when an enemy is broken and it has embers, you deal even more damage. So that is the baseline. And then, for example, we have, let's start it off from the beginning, the way you would start off like a normal, Mei Lin burst combo. So that is with the Spirit of the Aromata, and the either of these is pretty much fine, because what that means is when you use a, which is for the most part here referring to a Mei Lin card, you get a stacking damage bonus that then all accumulates into her big finishing move, as you'll see. But for example, this one also allows you to use other passion units to further increase that bonus, which also has to do with Veronica. So now that we have the Spirit of the Automata or Aromata, it also has retain, meaning you can wait for whatever turn until you want to use it. We have Mei Lin's baseline. So Mei Lin's baseline revolves around just this set right here, or not set, but the concept of just using basic attacks to deal the most amount of damage, meaning that not only is this basic card damage talent here incredibly good, what you can also be looking out for on your Mei Lin is going to be a combination of the attack, crit damage, and the basic attack damage 2-piece sets. She's one of the few characters in the game that have like a proper 3-2 set combination, and it makes her incredibly potent. So now that we have this out of the way, let's have a look at the next combo piece and the reason why it does or doesn't work as well as it does. So first off, you always want to remove this beautiful Flame Dragon Guardian here, otherwise you're just going to draw into it and you're going to be a little sad. So by removing that, you guarantee yourself that you're going to draw 2 strikes. Now here's some very important information for you. There's a major difference between draw and move. So the difference between draw and move. Imagine you're in a turn and you're playing a strike card, alright? You played your strike card, it goes into your graveyard, and then you use the unity of attack and defense to get it back, so you can use it again, but it doesn't work. It says there is no card found, but it's there, you just can't draw it, and that is because the draw prefix in the beginning cannot draw cards that have been played in the same turn. In opposition to that, the move prefix exactly has that ability. So the move prefix can pull cards out of the graveyard, out of your draw pile, or even cards that you've just played the moment before, and that is why the move prefix is kind of the key here. Though then again, you could also try the create card. It does similar things. Depending on how long the fight is, you barely notice a difference, because what this does, it just creates more strikes rather than draws strikes, so it kind of ends up in a similar or in the same situation. So this is the most important combo piece for Malin, just allowing you to get a massive amount of strikes that you can then just play in a row, starting to build up that Aromata combo and get those basic hits out with the Embers, with the Passion Weakness and all these extra bonuses, or even combined with the ult, which all of a sudden has these hits become 2 hitters just like that. And then we have the final piece, the Rising Dragon Spire, with one very specific epiphany that allows you to add 1 hit to this per passion card used. As you've already maybe heard from the barrel talk, getting multiple hits on a card is not only very satisfying but also heavily effective, so long as you get additional percentage multipliers on top of it, like for example the Spirit of the Aromata boosting the base damage. So then for every one of those Malin cards, every one of those strikes you've used, you get 1 additional hit here, which then ends up in these massive 30,000, 40,000 plus Malin punching the enemy to death and then further clips. Now that is kind of like the baseline of why Malin is so strong in a nutshell. And then let's talk about the next standout, which to be fair shouldn't even be separated from Malin, and that is because let's quickly stay in the same combo we've already talked about and talk about how Veronica can enhance that further. So straight up, just normally with her repost, you can already draw 2 cards from other combatants, which means it can never draw a Veronica card, so it can help and even increase the chances of you drawing, for example, one of those Malin cards. Then you have the one on the very left, which guarantees you the ability to draw other combatant cards at just 0 cost. Furthermore, this could be improved with Godly Epiphanies for more draw, more AP, and the like. Same is obviously true for the attack and defense unity card. So that is kind of like the greatest strength here. This cost reduction isn't as relevant, but could still come in quite clutch. And then you, for example, just for the biggest feel-good moment possible, you have one very specific card. So this is the Pendant of Resolution. The Pendant of Resolution has the retain tag, meaning it stays in hand until you want to play it, and this one has a very specific Godly Epiphany, which allows you to play this card at 0 cost. Now what that means is you'll have a card in hand that costs you nothing, that you can play 5 times in a row for free, due to it having retrieve 4. So you play it for the first time, retrieve goes down to 3, to 2, to 1, to 0, and then you can play it for the final time. And then let's say, for example, you had multiple copies of this, that is an additional 5 passion cards played, and then, or even 10 or 15 or anything like that. The ceiling is pretty damn high, and that works twofold in that if you, for example, have this beautiful Passion Epiphany right here, you're going to get that additional damage bonus that just stacks up to further boost the damage of the Dragon Spire, and to top it then all off, you also get more hits. So that is just that, like, yeah, that gigantic Malin numbers. Also the way and how you can, for example, try and one-shot or 2-turn, 3-turn the weekly boss Judas. So now let's further talk about Mei Lin, because Mei Lin isn't just useful in a, or Veronica isn't just useful in a Mei Lin com, she is useful in a lot of ways. So for example, something that you might or might not have known yet is the fact that the piercing ballista, piercing damage is damage that just ignores shields. Meaning, for example, then again, the Judas boss fight, you can basically just wait and use as many of his shield cards as possible, giving you a shield, drawing you a card, giving him a shield. You don't really care about that, because this card not only does damage directly to his health, but also increase damage so long as he has a shield, making this an absolutely disgusting way of killing shielded targets. But that isn't even all. You also have the ability to get big AoE damage through Giant Ballista, an additional 30% crit chance for pretty much the only damage source that she has, massively increasing the chances of you landing that crit, or even just the ability to create 2 ballistas instead of 1. Or I guess a multi-hit ballista that exists as well, that would even take even more advantage of, for example, extra attack damage boni due to it profiting or benefiting from it twice. So that is kind of like the shenanigans of just the bullets. We've already briefly talked about it, but the card draw of repos is just absolutely incredible. Also, the ability to give yourself reload. Reload is a, exclusive to Veronica stack that can increase her next ballista's damage by plus 50%, which goes all the way up to 150%, can then be increased to 4 with a unique card, making it 200%, and then to 250% the moment you get it to E4 at some far point in the future. So this one is a massive damage bonus, and there's multiple ways for you to get that reload bonus, with, for example, mainly it coming from the Pendant of Resolution. What you might have also noticed is that the Pendant of Resolution is an upgrade card, the Firing Preparation is an upgrade card, and the Bombardment Prep is also an upgrade card, meaning that if you, for example, cut out Rapid Fire and the Illusion of Golden Daffodils, you exactly have 2 cards. 2 cards in your whole deck that are going to be Veronica cards. The rest are you only one-time played, and then you won't see them for the fight again. Massively shrinking down the amount of cards in your deck. Heavily boosting the chances of you drawing into the win conditions of your main DPSs, or just in general more utility focused or whatever. You just have a, you basically have one of the smallest decks in the game possible. And then, not to be underestimated, you have Sir Kowalski, who's kind of a mix between giving you even more draw power and further boosting the ballista damage. Like, for example, you can exhaust 1 ballista in hand to then further create 2 ballistas and then negative damage, or just increase ballista damage, or just draw you 2, like for example on the left or in the middle. So you have immense card draw, you have a very tiny deck, and you have a lot of utility in how you can play her. Let's not forget the fact that she also has piercing damage on her ultimate, again ignoring shields, and also giving you that maximum stack of reload for massive ballista damage. And that's not even all of it. Let's talk about the fact that she has absolutely cracked out base attack. So this is Veronica at level 50, okay? At level 50 she has a base attack of 459. Let's have a look at, for example, Luke. Luke has a base attack of 437. Or let's see, Renoa also 437, Kayron 394. I've seen base stats. I think the base stat of a Veronica on level 60 is actually 530, which is pretty damn crazy. Though I think that also includes gear. But then again, I think she has definitely above average, if not the highest base attack in the game at the moment. It's a bit hard to say. And the reason why that is so important is because all your memory percentages, right? All your attack percentages, all your right side attack percentages, and all that is all just based on base damage. So that is Veronica for you, bringing us to number 4, and we just have to quickly talk about it, okay? I'll keep it short, I keep it simple, you all know it, I know it, Mika's here, Mika's everywhere, Mika's in every deck, so let's just speed run this so you get an idea on how to use her, should you not yet have been able to make proper use of her. So first off, Water Arrow is something you always want to get rid of. It provides next to no value to your Mika. Whirlpool is also something you can get rid of. There is one half useful epiphany giving you wave, but that only pays for itself should you have 3 targets. You don't really do damage on Mika, so it also doesn't really heal much. So Whirlpool and Water Arrow can already be cutting the deck down to just 6 cards. Deluge, it's a bit of a split one. In fights that aren't boss fights or in fights that don't last longer than 3 turns, Deluge is kinda ass. In fights that are longer or stretched out, it's going to pay for itself and then some. So even if you have an E6 Mika, it depends on how long the fight is to how powerful Deluge actually turns out to be for you during that fight. So there's 3 cards that can already just kinda be taken out of the equation. And then even though we're taking out that many cards, we have an ego skill that allows you to just create 2 AP whenever you need it, potentially even giving it retain with enough copies of the character, allowing you to hold those for whenever you truly need them. Then a Source of Water, which is just a 0 cost, you get 1 AP with multiple upgrades like the ability to reduce stress, like a 1-turn 3 AP burst, a 1 AP on the left side combined with a also further increase in wave. Wave is the mechanic of Mika that so long as you stack up 3, it turns into 1 AP. So this is pretty much 1.33 AP, or even here on recover meaning that you are less than full health and you heal yourself, then even a 0 cost 2 AP. So this is just a straight up good card, just giving you a bunch of AP. This card itself here, it depends. What I really like is this one, the ability to shield equal past max HP, which can be quite clutch, especially if you don't have a shielder in your team. But these cards, they just kind of stay in your hand, are a retained skill card. Whenever you need an emergency heal, you can use it. Any of these upgrades are quite decent, besides maybe the finale one, because it loses that retain aspect. So then we also have Tactical Analysis, which at base just gives you 1 wave or 1/3 of an AP. Then also has 2 upgrades that give you 2 wave, meaning 2/3 of an AP, while also either giving you increased Mika healing or increased team healing, or even here the ability to just heal with the card itself, which can do some funny shenanigans with, for example, Tresor Dagger spam teams. And then this upgrade card itself, yes, it gives you 1x 2 healing and 50% permanent fight-wide healing, but to be fair, it is an upgrade card, so it can only be played once. And that is kind of that. You just have big AP, you have the ability to create AP through an ego skill, and then also don't forget again about Godly Epiphanies on top with extra draw, with extra AP and all that stuff. So this should have been a pretty quick rundown on what you can or can't do with the Mika. And then gear wise, the main things you're looking for is defense for that increased healing, because healing is based on defense, increased max HP just so you can take more hits. And then if you wanted to be really fancy, you get the additional 20% attack or attack healing or shielding from basic attack cards, which is also quite fine. And then Mika is also kind of like your perfect target to just slap in as many gear bags, as many rallies, as many like neutral cards as possible, due to her obviously being that controller type and all these like powerful cards like gear bags, like rallies, just mainly fitting on controllers, or I guess psionics in some cases. So then I guess let's talk about the last one, and that is Khalib. Khalib is kind of like a rock. She is just damn solid. So what Khalib does is she provides you big shields and she provides big AoE damage. And one of the main sources for that big AoE damage is not only the ability to play her Heaven cards, which are cards that auto trigger so long as you pay a AP cost of 2 for any card, or I guess 2 or higher, but also this Silver Veil. So your goal on Khalib is not only to just get big shields and dish out damage, but to also start Silver Veil stacking, because this is a pretty damn ridiculous multiplier, and she can do some incredible AoE damage, especially also before the release of Yuki. Khalib is truly, besides maybe like a fully upgraded Lucas, our only real source of AoE damage, and she does it damn well. So the main favors here are, for example, just increasing the base damage of this while retaining the Silver Veil but losing the shield aspect, increasing the damage, just overall increasing the card, or even here just giving you a bigger shield based on cards in hand, which can be quite nice considering that she also has the retain effect, meaning you always have a certain amount of cards in hand. And then we, for example, have the Great Sword Aquila, which has one of the maybe easiest farm cards in the game. It's just a card that if you, for example, go into a farming stage, you can basically spam this card 4 times in a row, mostly annihilating anything that's AoE and requires you to just get quickly through them. But then most of the time this one is by far the strongest, because we were already talking about how Silver Whale is kind of like your main mechanic, or here's just like a straight up damage increase, but that is not really the most important. But here you can also further increase the damage of the next vulture ejection used. So she does have some quite important ones here. Rally is just your way to get as many vulture ejections as possible. You can also see that 4 out of 5 of her epiphanies actually pivot towards giving you even more Silver Veil, allowing you to get even more of these super powerful attacks out. And yeah, that's also kind of your goal here. Having a specific card draw can also allow you to get the vulture ejection more reliably, should you have more than 1 or 2, 3 cost cards in your deck from other sources. You have an absolute protection that is just a straight up, okay, I need a get out of jail free card. You get a massive shield based on the amount of AP you have at the time, because it spends all of it. Can also work with the X+1 item. Yes, this is one of those cases, and it also allows you to keep all your cards in hand. Whereas the overpower itself is a bit on the weaker side for a Khalib, but it still gives you a big shield. It does tenacity damage to an enemy, and depending on the situation, any of these can be quite important. Like for example here, if enemies are broken, they get the strongest multiplicative damage bonus in the game, and that is vulnerable, which just increases the final damage by 50%, or just making them weaken so that they don't hit you as hard. And yeah, I guess that is also Khalib for you. Khalib is just, people have referred to her as, you could say, the dog walker, and that is in that if you run a Mika and a Khalib in a team together, it doesn't really make a difference who you place as a third. You're going to make it through to the end, and you will be able to rather safely build safe data for said character. Whoops. So I hope you enjoyed this one. I hope we are in for even more things to see with the next seasons to come, even more deck combinations, even more fancy shenanigans, be it with new neutral cards, new other cards, even more content where maybe probably underestimated characters can shine. And I once again can't wait for season 1. Peace!